We are live. A very warm welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am very honored to be talking to Emmy Faust, who is a serial entrepreneur, an investor, and a business growth specialist. She's also one of the Women's Chapter members. So we're very, very, very grateful to have her in our community to be able to draw on her expertise. Emmy, thank you so much for joining us for our W.Talks series here on LinkedIn Live.
Thanks so much, Michelle, for inviting me. And, it's a privilege to speak to you as well, because what you're doing with Women's Chapter is amazing. And I love it. And I love being part of Women's Chapter because I love being part of, working with other female founders, collaborating with them and supporting them. So Women's Chapter is a great resource.
Thank you so much. Before we launch into our conversation, which is covering a very, very important topic today, and I think something that is not only topical, but close to the hearts of many women in business, is how to better support female founders. What can be done institutionally, but also what each one of us can do in order to make a difference. But before we start that, I would love to give you an opportunity just to share a little bit about your journey and your experience and how you've come to be where you are.
Okay. It's going to be, I need to try and condense this because I was thinking yesterday, it's been nearly 20 years. I'm nearly 45. Well, I'm 44, I think, or 43. I can't remember. Set up my first business at 25. And then before that, I was doing marketing and stuff. So, I've been doing this for like nearly 20 years and I've done so much across. I've been on Dragon's Den. I've secured funding. I co-founded a media agency, scaled that for 10 years, sold that to an independent media agency. Whilst we had the media agency, we set up multiple other businesses on the side. And some of them, spawned into something exciting. Some of them didn't, and that was fine because we were just testing them out. Had a failure with the Dragon's Den business, but learned a lot. In fact, learned a lot from that. And went on to sort of have quite a few successful businesses. Sold one of them, did really, really well with one of them, which actually at the end my co-founder was running. So he did a brilliant job getting that sold. And also had 4 children in amongst all of this. Had 3 children while I was running my own businesses and actually was on maternity leave as I sold and exited. I had to go back actually for 6 months. And then since then, I had a short stint at Google, which didn't work out because I realized after 6 weeks I was never going to see my family. So I made the difficult decision to leave. And then I kind of was a bit lost because I didn't know what to do because I'd run these businesses, had great people working with me. And suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I stupidly sort of had imposter syndrome about doing business growth or helping people do what I'd done really well because I didn't see myself as successful. And so it took me a while sort of floundering around to finally realize that I am really good at that. And that's what I should go back to do. And that's what I've been doing for probably like the last 6 or 7 years, helping other people. Yeah.
Well, can I just say it's really refreshing and a relief to hear that even someone like you suffers from imposter syndrome and has those moments of doubt. Because I think that's something that even if we don't acknowledge it, we all, both men and women, suffer from that. And it takes a fair amount of kind of self-development and awareness to be able to put yourself on, say, actually assert your worth and go, yeah, I am good at this. So thank you for sharing that. And you touched as well on kind of the words success and failure. What does success mean to you as a female founder?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I did a post on this literally a week ago and it kind of went, there's a lot of, it resonated with a lot of people because I was thinking last weekend, I'm not as successful as I used to be. Like in my 30s, I was like running 7-figure businesses. It all seemed really easy. I had my co-founder. We were having a good time. We're having a laugh, money coming in. And, I was successful. I hadn't actually, successful in terms of like, running a business as it was successful. But I never sort of thought of myself like that. It's actually only now that I look back. And I sort of look at where I am today and I'm doing something much smaller. I'm running a small consultancy business for my own well-being and that of my family. I have to be really guarded about how much client work I do, how many clients I take on, the kind of clients I work with. So actually I've got like a very small boutique consultancy where it's kind of me working with some of my favorite clients. And, in sort of revenue terms or, look at me terms, I'm not doing anything anywhere near as successful, but I have got 4 children and I've got through the pandemic. and I have struggled with my mental and physical health, but I'm coming out the other side. So, you know, I think the money is not really success, is it? Though we are led to believe it's success, and that's what people put. You know, they will often identify you as being successful by the size of your business, the turnover, the revenue, and not the other things, which are also important. And it was so lovely to see so many comments of like, but you're with your son and he's smiling, that's success. Or like, you know, the most successful thing you can do is to like be there for your children and also show them that, you know, you can work at the same time. I don't know, there was lots of great messages, and actually we were sort of more talking about resilience and why do we measure success over resilience? Because actually I've become so much more resilient, and I just haven't given myself any credit for that. You know, the last 3 years have been so full on and like a masterclass in resilience, let's say that. And I've really struggled, but like, you know, it's good. Probably, I'm sure it would have been good for me. What about you, Michelle? What's success to you? And sorry, just really quickly before we move to you, success to me is also seeing my clients happy, getting the really good testimonials from my clients, telling my clients coming back to me. I've had 2 clients recently like who've come back to me after they've been away, and they're just like, I just need to work with you again because you like totally sort my head out and give me clarity. And you know, one of them has done amazingly well, and the other one, someone on their team, has been getting, you know, everyone wants her to work for, you know, there's just really good stuff. So for me, when I have a client who comes off a call and just says, oh my God, that's changed my life, that was brilliant, you totally sorted me out, the stress is gone, the overwhelm's gone, and by the way, you saved me loads of money, that for me feels really good. I've talked a lot about my own success, so let's talk about you and what it means to you.
Well, I lost you there for a second, but yeah, you know, it's interesting because I've also kind of struggled with my own definition of success over the years, and I have very much had a portfolio corporate career doing lots of different things that I've often found myself feeling hesitant to share that with people because I thought it would suggest that I didn't know what I wanted to do. And if I did have a CV, which I don't have anymore, it would show that I had done lots of different things and worn many different hats. I didn't realize at the time that it ultimately would mean that I was developing skills that would lead me to run my own business and wear the many hats that you have to do when you run your own business. But I think as well, when I took the plunge to kind of start the women's chapter, which very much was a passion project at first and something that I developed on the side because I wanted to solve a problem or fill a need that I felt existed not only for myself but for others. It was very much about finding inspiration and motivation for myself, because although I was successful in a kind of, in probably typical terms, I wasn't happy and I wasn't fulfilled, and I felt like I was constantly having to make compromises. So I think over the last 2.5 years, everything that we've all been through has hopefully given people permission, not that we need it, to reclaim our definitions of success, our very own definitions, because I think it means different things to different people. And for me, it is about doing something that's meaningful, having an impact, but also inspiring my children, and having a level of work-life balance, because we spend so much time working, we should be doing something that makes us happy.
Exactly. I think doing something that makes you happy and you enjoy, then it obviously feels less like work, doesn't it? So there is a work-life balance. I think, you know, actually what the last year has made me realize that without your health, you have nothing. So success to me is like being healthy, being able to do my work and want to do my work, and being physically and mentally able to do my work and look after my children and have a family. And that actually comes from like not overdoing it and not pushing yourself and setting boundaries. And those are all things that are super hard as, you know, founders, because we and actually especially as female founders, because we've got all the additional, you know, as well as running our business and trying to do that, we've also got all of our family, and obviously, you know, our partners help, but the research shows that a lot of it does come to us. You know, we're the ones that are, you know, the logistical, I don't know what you call them, magicians, whatever. You know, we're like masterminding so many different things at once when it comes to kids. There's so much going on, and the family. and, you know, running the household and all those other things. And then we're trying to do work. So I think really being mindful of all those things and making sure that we're looking after ourselves and setting boundaries, not overdoing it. I mean, I struggle with that sometimes because I love my work so much. I don't know about you. It's easy for it to sort of like blend in. Like I was watching a masterclass last night at 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, and I actually really enjoyed it. But then I'm sort of thinking, should I be doing this? Because it's kind of work, you know?
Yeah. We had a gap in communication there again. But yeah, I'm the same. I also really struggle to ring fence personal and family time, because I think, and someone said this to me the other day, they said something about the holidays in the summer coming up, and I said, I'm guessing you never really go on holiday because you run your own business. And I said, unfortunately, that has historically been the case, that yes, even if I have had times of break, I'm always kind of keeping one eye on emails, and there's a to-do list that never goes away. I think because you are having to wear the strategic mind, as well as then delegating things to your team if you have one, or being the doer yourself, depending on the stage of your business. But I think for me, just to kind of like summarize from a success perspective, I think we all need to get better in terms of this inclusive approach to success. And even in the entrepreneurial space, there's a lot of kind of snobbery, or a lot of businesses that get left behind because they're not scaling, or they don't want to scale, or they have a lifestyle business, so to speak. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know,
A lifestyle business is great. I mean, I think what people forget is that scaling business, getting funding, I mean, I've done it. It's super stressful. You've then got investors on board. You've got to answer to them. You know, you're constantly having to show growth. That is incredibly full on and incredibly stressful.
Yeah. And I mean, even as you said yourself, fundraising, you know, that is virtually a full-time job in itself. That's got to be in addition to actually running your business. So I say to a lot of the women that come into our community, and it's interesting because we get applications from women-led businesses to join our community, and a lot of them say, "Oh, my business is not very big, or I've just a startup." And you know, businesses come in all shapes and sizes, and as long as you are achieving what's important to you, that might be putting food on the table for your family and a roof over their head and having more flexibility to spend time with them. If that's what your objective is, then that's absolutely fine. That's success. And if it's to exit in 5 years, you know, with a multi-million-pound payout, then that's amazing too. There's plenty of space within our economy for all of those businesses, and every single one of them makes a meaningful contribution.
Exactly. And everyone just needs to go after their own dreams. And for me, success now, I don't want another big agency. Success for me is like I'm about to go off to do Pilates in a bit, being able to go to do Pilates, taking my kids to school, which I did this morning, picking them up from school. But that's only because, you know, I had a whole tranche of time when I wasn't necessarily able to do that. But the one good thing about working for yourself is hopefully you can move things around so that you can go to those key moments, because that was a sort of big decision for me to leave Google, was when I wasn't able to go to my little girls' nativity play, and I was just like, I'm not going to stay here. You know,
and that must have been a really difficult decision for you.
It was a really difficult decision for me to leave Google, because basically it took me ages to get the job. I was super excited. I had 3 kids, and they were like, "You're an entrepreneur. It's going to be amazing to have you." And I was so happy. I was like, I'm going to work for Google, which in my eyes was like the big, you know, tech business. I read a book about Google when I was really young, like when it just started out, and you know, the shares were like nothing and they were growing really quickly, and I was like, oh my god, I want to work for that business. And so, but obviously, like, I was running my own business, so I could never work for them. And suddenly, and some of the guys that used to work for me got a job at Google, and they were really happy. But you know, like within on my first day, I knew it wasn't right. Couple of days in, I just wasn't seeing my kids. I was leaving at 7:30 to get in for 8:30. Had to literally run out the door at 5:30 to get home for 6:30, and I had half an hour with them before bed, and I felt like I was, you know, escaping early. And my boss just literally didn't have a clue about, you know, bless him, he probably hadn't been given any training about what it's like to be a mum and to have kids and to want to get back your children. And they wouldn't allow me to work flexibly. They wouldn't allow me to work from home or part-time, which is a shame, because I think now it would be very different. This was obviously all pre-pandemic. I think now they'd been much more. And in fact, I remember, this is this kind of sad thing. I did a little PowerPoint presentation, and I got in and I asked the head of the UK if I could have a meeting with her. And I'd done this little presentation, and it was all about how having working mums was really good, and how I don't even know. I mean, I literally can't remember what I'd done, but it was like a sort of PowerPoint thing. And literally 2 slides in, she's not interested. That was it. Either you're going to work full time from the office, or this isn't the job for you. And so I literally cried all day, and I left. So yeah, it's sad. It was sad. But and sometimes I get annoyed that I was made to make that decision, because now I think, God, I wouldn't be like that now. And if I was still at Google, I'd be 7 years in, and I'd be off doing some incredible something somewhere else. But then I just got to remind myself that I made the right decision at the right time. The universe had a plan. I'm doing what I love, which is working with great businesses. It's hard working for yourself. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's probably, to have the backing of someone like Google would have been lovely, and all their training and everything else. But ultimately, I get to go to my kids' sports days and ice cream sales and bake sales and all of that kind of stuff. So.
Well, and it's interesting that you were speaking about that kind of, your corporate experience, because I think too, in the world of work, we put a lot of focus on the support that female founders need. But often the unsung heroes are those entrepreneurs and women who work within corporates, who are driving massive change within a structure that they largely don't have control of, and are still trying to raise families and balance homes and that kind of thing. And I think that's, it's often why we see so many women leaving corporate to start their own businesses, because of that level of frustration. But for those that stay and land up leading those businesses, hats off to them, because it's working within, a structure that largely you can't make the rules around. You can influence them, but you, in many cases, can't change them. So I think, that's why for Women's Chapter, for us, it's really important that we include the women that lead businesses and haven't only just founded them, because there's a place within our community for all women in business, regardless of whether or not you founded the business or not.
Yeah, I agree. That also takes a lot of hard work, determination, insight, everything. And yeah, I see these women who are doing these incredible jobs, and they've got young families, and I'm like, wow, hats off to them. And also, hopefully their employers are, I sometimes wonder, the women that are doing really well, I imagine that they are having more supportive businesses that are encouraging them and supporting them. And, because it's just such a shame, wasn't it? I had so much to give, having had successful businesses, and also being a mum of 3, now 4. But yeah, it is what it is.
So let's talk about access to funding, because obviously you have raised investment for various businesses. What's your impression of what it's like now? And I mean, obviously you work with a lot of fast growth clients as well.
I think, I went on Dragon's Den, raised funding in an hour. So there wasn't to be honest, there was not a huge amount of work done in the preparation for that or anything. We're just very lucky. I then raised funding for another little project I did that was off a serial entrepreneur who'd worked with me in the past, and he basically was just investing in me. So that was easy. But I do see, I see that fundraising for anyone is hard. It's really hard. I've got lots of clients who've raised and they're trying to raise again. Or I think it is difficult, and I think it's definitely getting better for women and easier for women. But we all know there is this sort of bias, and often you're pitching to, a board of, loads of old white men. There's not that much diversity in that world. And in fact, when I did that post, so I did another post the other day, which is about me not being granted a free ticket into London Tech Week. And so many female founders were like, oh my God, this totally resonated with me. I had an inbox full of messages saying I've just pitched, and there was 5 white guys on the panel. The lady did actually get funding, which is brilliant, but she was like, I just want to see more people like me, you know, on the other side. And it is difficult. And often, you know, you hear of stories where, I don't know, the men just don't get also what we're, you know, what we're selling or what our products are, and we'll just say things like, oh, that will never take off. So, you know, it's difficult for everyone, but I do think it is difficult for women. And I've seen it myself. I've seen it in board meetings. I've seen it, you know, I've never told this story, and it's awful. And I've been wanting to tell it, and I will start telling it more. But I remember I just had my first child, and I went to a board meeting, and the investor, who is quite a well-known person, said to my business partner, what's it like working with Emmie? Her brain must be a whole load of mush. And I just thought, I've literally left my baby, who was about 3 or 4 weeks at home, to show up to a board meeting because I felt like I had to. I felt like I had to show up. I felt, as a woman, you know, if I don't, I'm not going to be seen. And, you know, how does that make you feel? Yeah, I probably was struggling. I probably was like all over the shop. I probably hadn't had any sleep and everything else, but that's not what you say. You say, Emmie, it's amazing to see you. Like, how are you and your family? And well done for like showing up. You didn't need to come today, but like, I felt so much pressure to be there. And then to have that comment, it's just like, what are you talking about? Admittedly, that was 10 years ago. That would be like a sackable, you're never going to be involved in a business again if you say something like that now. But, you know, that stayed with me for 10 years. It's behavior like that all the time.
Yeah.
And it still happens.
Well, and I hear it consistently as well, you know, in our community, where people are asked if they have a male co-founder or if they're considering taking one on, or, you know, and
no, just me and another woman.
And you know, Julia Elliott Brown, who's in our community and runs Enter the Arena, has, you know, a plethora of stories of all the female founders she's worked with, where, you know, they tell their stories, their investment stories, and the experiences that they've had. And other female founder communities that I'm part of, I think there was one of the women saying the other day that she, you know, she's constantly been made to feel, and she's raised for several businesses, multi-million pounds, you know, and she has felt like, I mean, she was working 4 hours after a C-section.
I know, it's bonkers. And like, why are we doing that? Is it that we feel like we need to prove something because people are so quick to judge us? I mean, that's the other thing. And I didn't really take proper maternity leaves, you know, with my children, because, you know, I didn't want to be seen as some sort of flaky woman, and it's not fair, and all those kind of things. So I do think it's interesting, and we need to do more to support women. Definitely.
I mean, I think
champion them.
Yeah, and the statistic sadly is that male-owned businesses are still receiving 7 times the amount of funding that women-led businesses are.
I was just going to say, I was just looking, and obviously there's lots of different sort of stats, and some of it's for the UK and some of it's for the US, but like, it is significantly more, isn't it? It was saying here, just 15p in every pound invested last year, and this is a really recent one, went to female-founded companies, shy of the 17p record. But it has improved since 2011. And then the other one was the proportion of deals secured by a firm with a female founder, or could be a co-founder. So I mean, that's very much like there's a woman, had doubled, but it just but you know, progress is still slow. And then, you know, and that's the other thing, like, well, I was just going to say, one of the other things I feel like is sometimes now, and this is maybe a slightly different topic, maybe I'm going off topic because we didn't even finish that, but there's also now this pressure to have like women on your board and boom, boom, boom. And sometimes that is almost like a trophy woman. And I've been that trophy woman, and that feels really bad. And then, you know, when someone better came along, they just, you know, binned me. So in a way, we've got these stats and everyone's trying to, you know, champion more women, make it better for women, help women secure funding, help women, you know, get into businesses. And we're saying, let's get more women on boards. And that's brilliant. And I totally believe we should do that. But then there's businesses that are almost just like doing it as a tick box. And then I remember sitting in a board meeting and they don't even listen to you. They're not even interested. They didn't even ask me any questions or ask me what my thoughts were. It was just like, we're having the board meeting and you're just sitting there to tick a box. And that's like rude.
I mean, on the sort of the statistics side of things, I always look to the Rose Review, and they've recently a next edition of that came out, and one of the really positive statistics I thought that came out of that was that in the last year there've been 140,000 new female-founded businesses that have started in the UK, which is really, really exciting, especially considering what we've all been through over the last 2.5 years. But it also highlights still, and that's unchanged from its first review, that the untapped potential in terms of the UK economy is worth £2.5 billion. And that if we gave women more support around access to funding, being heard, networks, that many, many more of those businesses would succeed, and we'd start to chip away and open up that £2.5 billion that's worth to the UK economy. And I think it goes to that point that we were speaking about, all of these businesses make a really valuable contribution, but what could we each be doing to help them make the most of the contribution and to unlock the potential that they have? I know that you invest in businesses, so it'd be wonderful to hear your approach as an investor.
Yeah, I do invest in businesses, and I'm planning on investing quite a bit more over the coming year or so. Not massive amounts, like 20, 25 grand here and there, but to early stage businesses, that's a reasonable amount of money. I always invest in the founder, and because generally I invest in the founder, and obviously their business, they need to have a good business, but it's whether I rate the founders generally. And most of the time it has been female founded businesses, or it's where there's a female and a male co-founder, and I'm very, I've worked very like with one of them, I've just worked directly with the female founder. I haven't actually met the other, so I just invested based on her. And then I've invested in one other business, which is a amazing organic sort of natural deodorant business. But yeah, I mean, I'm for example, there's a lady called Alexa who set up Triple Brood, and she's just incredible. She's nails. Like I say, her board, her investor comms that she sends through, it's like a masterclass, and like me and my husband blown away. This woman is just incredible. She is so on it. I've never seen anything like it. And I just love it so much. For me, to be able to put my money to support female founders, it means and what's interesting is I've only realized that recently. And the other thing is I invested in a fund, actually, in a big fund, and I've had a return, and the return came from Me and Em, which is a female founded business, and I've already made my money back from the whole fund just from investing in the investment from her. So I'm like, wow, that just goes to show, out of this fund that I invested in, 10 businesses, I think 8, a number of them have gone tits up. There's a couple still going. I've already got my money back from my investment, plus I've still got another whole load of shares with Me and Em that are growing as she grows the business, and she's doing amazingly well. So I just feel like getting that return and seeing her success, and then seeing Alexa from Triple Brood, and then a couple of other businesses where the female co-founders I've invested in, and I've got a relationship with them. I'm like, I really like that dynamic. I really like that relationship that we have. And I want to put my money mainly towards those kind of businesses. So in fact, I just got sent something today and recently another day. So if I see female founders are investing, then I definitely want to have that conversation. And then, I do a bit of crowdfunding, like ecology and heights. I might put 500 quid or £1,000 or something like that. But generally, I think I want to put my money with the female founders, because that's what I feel passionate about.
And how important is the founder story and them sharing of themselves? Because I think there seems to have been a shift, and there used to be so much talk about personal brand. And I don't think there's a distinction anymore between personal brand and business brand. If you're a founder, and particularly if you're a woman, you are your business. And unfortunately, you have to step into the limelight and tell your story, because there's something really magical that happens in terms of consumer loyalty and engagement. And by nature, the way that we know how to support each other is to buy from each other, because if I want to be part of your story, I want to buy one of your services, or I want to buy something from you, because that means I'm supporting you, and I get to in some way be a part of this really incredible thing that you're doing. So I don't know how much of that resonates with you. Do you really buy into the founder stories?
I buy into them. So like the investments to date have been very much people that I've worked with or I've known, or, I've had a lot of conversations with, and I've got to know them, and I've been like, wow, I think you're onto something. I do say, I think as the business gets bigger, people are buying the brand, they're buying the brand, and they might know the founder, but in the early stage, the founder and the founder stories and getting investment and all that kind of stuff, that's how you've got to build your audience. Because like we know, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And if it's a brand new brand, they don't, that's something totally new. So investors are definitely buying into the founders and their story, and understanding them and why they set it up. And it's got to be a purpose behind it all as well, hasn't there? And then obviously, but also investors do want to see that they're going to get a return. So that comes into it too. But yeah, I think there is this big thing about a personal brand, isn't there? And it's really interesting, because I find people do want to know people. When I do those posts about like not getting my ticket to London Tech Week, or what does success mean, I'm not as successful as I was 30 years ago, those are ones that everyone wants to connect with and build a relationship with me. When I do stuff about like 10 ways to save money on your marketing budget, everyone's a bit like, that's not very exciting. But so I think it's a mix. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because of course, people want to buy from people that they trust, and in the early days, that's what your brand is. So that is important. I'm really into like relationships, networking, human connection, and I believe that like I often say to like founders, you just got to get out there. You've got to get onto LinkedIn. You've got to be like messaging people and contacting people and talking to people and sharing your story on LinkedIn and all those things. And just being there, being out there, making connections. That's the big thing.
Yeah. Well, because I think one of the challenges, and if we start to sort of talk about how each one of us can support female founders or women-led business, I think one of the challenges is those businesses, particularly when they're in the early stages, is being seen and being heard and being discovered when they don't necessarily have a large marketing budget or a massive community behind them yet. And in many ways, I see that's where our role as the women's chapter comes in, is because it kind of came from a few different instances where there was such willingness to buy from a women-led business, but people were finding it difficult to find them, to identify them. And so that was one reason that we started our women-led collective, was because it was an opportunity to help be a mouthpiece for some of these brands and to shine a light on their stories and give them an additional platform to talk about what sets their hearts on fire and why they've developed their businesses and the products and services that they offer, but also to help connect these really willing people like you who want to put either your investment or your consumer power behind these businesses. And, that's a movement that I really want to keep growing and keep encouraging people to get involved in, because the institutions are doing their bit, and we are seeing, the issue with access to funding and the growth of female-founded businesses has been identified, and there is momentum and things are changing. But we also, every single one of us, can make a difference ourselves by harnessing that exponential consumer power we have. To think about, like you were talking about, me and Em, I'm a big fan, and I buy their product. And if I was faced with buying something from 2 high street stores, I would totally choose the one that had a female founder behind it and had, and obviously quality aside, that would be where my choice is. And I try to think about, when I'm buying products and services for my home or for my business, how can I use the money that I have to support fellow women? Because it's that that gets them. And I'm sure you've had this when your businesses were in early stages. You get a sale come through, or you secure a deal, and you're dancing around your kitchen or your living room or your warehouse, and that really does happen. That a sale pings through on their phone, and they possibly are even still doing the picking and packing at that stage in a warehouse somewhere, but they're dancing around because a sale came through, and I think like that makes me so excited that we have the power to make those kind of moments of happiness possible.
I know, I totally agree with you. It's so true, and I love that you're doing that. And I think the other great thing about women's chats that I was going to say is not only is it, it's also allowing women to connect with other women for support in actually the day-to-day of growing your business. It can be lonely. I remember like your friends don't necessarily understand what it's like because they don't have a business. Your husband doesn't want to talk to you, or your partner doesn't want to talk to you about your business all the time because, it can get a bit boring. So to connect with other people who get it, and also in the early stages when maybe you have got that imposter syndrome, or you're not sure what you're doing, or you're just needing some, guidance or help, you've almost got like a mentorship and a group of people that understand. And I think that's the amazing thing that Women's Chapter does as well. So well done for all that you do, Michelle. It's really fantastic.
Well, I think, whatever support network it is, it's really important for women to find a group of trusted people that they can let their hair down with, they can be vulnerable with, if that's how, if that's how they feel. And in a sort of Chatham House rules setting, to be able to ask for honest feedback and advice, because it's really hard to find that. Your friends and family will give that to you to a certain extent, but they love you and they don't want to hurt your feelings. Whereas I think when you are surrounded by people who are on the same journey, they understand the value of really frank, honest feedback. And that can help you move forward much faster. So support networks in whatever shape or form they take are really, really important. And I think, again, that was one of the key elements that gets identified in all of the reports that come out around how we can better support women in business and female founders is, access to a really solid support network in whatever form that takes, men and women.
Yes, exactly. We want men on this mission as well. It's not just it can't just be women flying the flag for women. We must go there, Michelle. We said we've got to go. I've got my Pilates to go to.
Well, Emmy, is there anything that you want to share with everyone before we end off? Because I know that you run multiple projects and you've got lots of initiatives in play to support not only female founders, but businesses just to scale and grow. Is there any call to actions that you want to share with us today?
I'd love people to connect with me on LinkedIn. That is where I am. And, I've got lots of different projects going on. I'm going to be doing more in the female founder space, really making sure it's interesting what you're saying, actually, but like all the masterclasses and stuff that I do now, I'm really trying to make sure that we're bringing women in on the panel, because I do those for Seed Legals and, lots of different businesses and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that that's an opportunity for me to give women a voice. And that also is going to take my little box, because I want to start creating a little project on the side to support and inspire and showcase female founders. So, yeah, I just love people to connect with me on LinkedIn. And thank you so much, Michelle, for today. It's been so nice.
You're wonderful. Thank you. And I couldn't agree more. We can't be what we can't see. So we all have a responsibility to help share stories and shine a light on these incredible women that are doing brave things every day. And hopefully our sons and daughters will look to those people as role models rather than influencers, who are clearly all business people in their own right? But that who are putting themselves out there and growing businesses and doing brave things. So thank you so much for your time today, Emmy. It has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Enjoy the sunshine today, or I hope you do get a chance to enjoy it. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We look forward to seeing the comments. Cheers.
Bye.